All right, greetings, folks. Welcome to episode 162 of Into the Necrosphere, the first ever Into the Necrosphere live stream, possibly the last ever, depending on how this goes. But I am very pleased to be joined by Evan Goldenhopper, my friend and many-time guest on Into the Necrosphere. As I said to you, Evan, I think the only dude that has you beat as far as guest appearances are concerned is Mike. And you're not playing catch up either because he's next week's guest. So,
that's fine. I don't mind keeping on like a race with Mike. That's fine.
and then we also have Dave Berardi. He's known on Instagram as Razor Eater Metal. I do believe, though, that after this, I've told him already, it's Evan that came up with the name, but he will be known as the Duke of Metal following this.
You know what? I'll take it.
Live stream.
I'll take it. I like it. There's a ring to it. Dave
so, folks, usual announcements before we get started. If you are new to the podcast and you like what we do or you like what I do, make sure you elbow drop the subscribe button off the top rope on your platform of choice. I will post this as a numbered episode probably on Thursday or Friday, but I've already seen a couple of folks in the comments, so thanks very much for those of you that are tuning in. We are, of course, here to talk about our favorite music of 2022, a continuation from the episode that I did last week with Nathan Glover. But I just want to shout out my fellow horsemen of the podcast apocalypse before we get started. So if you are not already following and subscribed to them, make sure that on a Monday you tune in to Brandon Legion with the Horrible 666 podcast. He talks to luminaries, producers, writers, actors from the horror industry. Great dude, and I've been on his podcast before. I'll no doubt hopefully be a guest again at some point in the not too distant future, but well worth checking out. Of course, Into the Necrosphere every Tuesday. On a Wednesday, you've got the original Mike Hill with Everything Went Black. He returns on a Thursday with my personal favorite podcast, Necromaniacs, alongside Mike Scandato and Jeff Kashid. He's co-hosts. And then every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Hikara delivers Satan's message on the Lord's Day. With these podcasts, Soul Knox. I am due to be on Soul Knox again in a couple of weeks' time. And funnily enough, when we get to my to my 20 through 11 countdown later on in the show, Carl unwittingly informed quite a lot of the juggling around that happened in my on my list. So I have to give him a shout out for that. But so let's just very quickly kind of play a bit of catch up with Evan in particular. Evan, the legions beg to know what is going on at the moment with Quell. Obviously, you had a record that released in 2022 as well. The guy that you had, I believe, doing backing vocals on track 5. Some people that heard that refer to that brief sequence where he was screaming as life-changing. Not my words, but just some of the reviews that I'd read. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think the album would have been as good had I not have gotten that cameo. So, like, I'm very very grateful and humbled, by that appearance on that album for sure.
I'm waiting for my royalties. I'm already sort of putting down deposits.
I'm still waiting to get paid. Trust me, you'll be on the top of the list of like, when I dole out the cash that comes my way from that. But I'm in the pre-mixing phase of a new album for Quell. So all of the guitars and drums and bass, they are all complete. I just need to make sure everything sounds good enough before going in and recording vocals, and then it's a matter of mastering. So I don't want to. I've been bad about setting dates that are unobtainable. So I would say within the next month or two, there will be a single out, and then the album will shortly follow afterwards.
And have you are you able to reveal anything about what it's going to sound like?
It is going to be a continuation. It's of the growth that Quell I think has like represented like like throughout the time that I've been doing this. So I have some elements on this album that are going to like be like, the goal is to sort of like lead you into the album as if you're like, if you were to play The Cult Is Dead and then immediately put on this album. I would like for The Cult Is Dead to flow nicely into the intro of this new album, but then this new album is going to incorporate some more elements of death metal, and some more of the progressive stuff, and even some more post-punk and different things, but done my way. So it's not going to be like, oh, this is the post-punk moment or this is the death metal moment. It's going to be sort of like homogenized all into one little thing. And I hope it translates well. I think it sounds all right, but I still have some tweaking and some editing to do until like I'm 100% like happy to put it out there, because it is going to be a little bit different. But I know a lot of times people hear different and they say, like, they think it's going to be like, we're going to go into like doing operatic, like clean vocals or something like that, but it's not going to be the case. It's just exploring more of the stuff that I like to explore with Quell.
Yeah. Now, I know that you also have, I don't know whether you want to lift the lid off of this, but you mentioned post-punk, and you sent me some stuff that you'd been working around with. I don't know whether you were just fucking around with it, but whatever you sent me, I did say to you at the time, was absolutely superb. And I mean, one, I still can't believe that it was you that was singing like that, because I pictured your clean singing voice as being more of a falsetto, high estrogen kind of male vocal. But
that's cool to talk about. That's actually something I should probably talk about or post about. I haven't done anything like that, but yeah. So I've been also like trying to do a different project that sits outside of Quell. I don't have a name for it that I'm 100% happy with, but I think at this point I have 8 songs for that as well. And I plan on just releasing it free. So when I do get to the point where I'm happy with it, it'll just go on to another Bandcamp, and it'll also be on Spotify as well when I drop it. I'm just playing around with one more song before I get to that point, and I guess I have to settle on a name too. But that's like, I don't know. That was just like a writing exercise. It started off as a writing exercise because I wanted to. I was having a hard time with this new Quell thing. I had like gotten like up in my head a little bit and like was having writer's block, and so I just thought like maybe it'd be a good exercise to like try and write music in a different genre, but something I'm familiar with. Like I wasn't going to like start playing like Creole music or some reggaeton or something like that. I had to play something I was familiar with. So I do listen to some goth and post punk. So I thought I'd give that a try. And instead of using a guitar, I was playing around on a MIDI keyboard and using synthesizers and like programs like plugins on the DAW that I use, and just messing around with that. And I did come up with a couple interesting things. I think, I'm going to put that one out for free because it's going to be done just like in my, mostly in my room. So I don't feel it has the same production or like, attention that like Quell has. But I hope people like it. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, dude, I mean, the bit that you sent me, I thought was fucking superb. And I mean, I wouldn't say so if it were not so. I would have probably have just ignored the message. But
I really appreciate that. Yeah,
I was genuinely surprised. I mean, and surprised in a great way about your ability to sing, because I mean, I know. Back when I was messing around with music, and this is like years back, every time that I attempted to do any sort of clean singing, it was an absolute fucking debacle. So I couldn't bear to hear the sound of my own voice for starters.
It's awful. I mean,
it takes guts to do it.
That never goes away. It never goes away. It doesn't even go away. I mean, maybe to some guys, I can't speak for like the guys that are going to be on our list today. But like even when I go into the studio to record vocals for Quell, it's awful. It's a harrowing experience. Like typically I like to have like when I sing, I like to have like the headphones playing the music loud enough that I can almost not hear myself sing, when I'm screaming into the microphone. It has to be quiet enough so like the microphone doesn't pick it up. But I'll have that music playing in my ears as loud as fucking possible because I hate the sound of my voice. But I know that when I'm not listening to myself, I project well and I sing well. But when I think about it and I'm listening to myself, it's the most cringiest thing that I have ever witnessed or done.
It's like you're that kind of half step out of time.
It's just I don't know. It's just like having it in your ear instead of hearing it like bounce off the wall or bounce off someone that you're talking to. It's when you're hearing it in your head at the same time it's coming out of your mouth. Yeah, it's a hard thing to get over, and I love my voice that much to like be in love with that sound. If I sung like that, and like Kimbra or someone came out, like I'd be like, oh yeah, I could listen to this all day. But it's my voice, and like, no, I don't like it as much as other people do.
Yeah. Now I often wonder how folks that we've been listening to for years, and again, people that are going to be on this list, how they feel when they listen back to their vocals. Like, do they feel like a degree of self-consciousness? Because it was interesting to me talking to Aaron from My Dying Bride, for example, and he was saying the first time he did clean vocals, he had to pull his t-shirt over his head and turn his back on the band because he felt he literally was feeling so like in the spotlight.
Which is and see that's what I mean, like but to us, like those albums and his voice are like amazing, but to him it's like it's awful to hear. It's like and that's the thing that's I don't know if it doesn't. Maybe Nick Cave feels that way when Nick Cave sings. He might hate his voice too. You never know. It's hard to say. Anybody like who has done that knows like that's that fear of having to listen to yourself back. It's harrowing.
Well, you actually did make me think of Nick Cave, and here's a non-metal related question for you, because I know, Dave, you're into reasonably a reasonably broad spectrum of music as well. So best male vocal, if you had to choose between Nick Cave and Mark Lanigan, and there's only one correct answer to this question. So,
oh man,
I can tell you mine.
Why do you do this to me? Oh my God. I gotta go Mark Lanigan probably, because I mean Screaming Trees is really close to me as well. And then that Bubblegum record, like especially like since he's passed, that record's become something like on a whole other level for me, I think. Dark Mark. I mean, you could say the same thing about Nick Cave though. Like Murder Ballads to me is such an amazing record. It's so dark. But yeah, that's almost impossible to answer, But yeah, I think I gotta go with Mark. Yeah, just because of that. Yeah.
All right, Evan Goldenhopper.
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot too. For me, it's Mark Lanigan as well. I appreciate Nick Cave, of course. Birthday Party and everything else the man's done like is fucking fantastic. But Mark Lanigan means more to me just through the music that I grew up listening to. So yeah, it's Mark Lanigan for me as well.
Yeah, but that answer is of course correct, and I understand Concept Machine feels differently about that, and is a Nick Cave fan, and Seth Wallenschlager has also pointed out quite rightly that Pete Steele was a phenomenal vocalist. But
I mean,
yeah, for
there's
me,
there's a thing to be said about vocalists that are like David Bowie or like vocalists that are like Nick Cave, but like they have the same je ne sais quoi, that like Mark Lanigan does. Like are there vocalists that are better than David Bowie? Like absolutely there are vocalists that are better than David Bowie. But David Bowie just has a delivery and an essence that like it's not really like comparable in a lot of ways, right? And I think Mark Lanigan is the same thing. So it's hard to compare a guy like Nick Cave and Mark Lanigan because they don't really like occupy like a broad spectrum. They kind of just occupy their own individual space, right?
Have you seen the video where they do the Weeping song together, Mark Lanigan and Nick Cave?
Yeah.
Dude,
I haven't seen that one.
Unbelievable. Unreal. It's on YouTube. And another thing that I would implore you to go and watch if you haven't seen it yet There's an acoustic show. I can send you the link as well after this. There's an acoustic show that Greg Dooley from Afghan Wigs and Mark Lanigan do together, and they did that Gutter Twins project. But this is not Gutter Twins; they're just doing each other's songs. There are a couple of songs that that Lanigan does there that are just like, if you thought his voice was good before, you are going to literally probably have a lump in your throat for the vast majority of the show. It's fucking unreal. And I'll definitely say, I think I've always been a fan of his, but he like, his music took on new meaning for me when I listened through his autobiography. You know, it's genuinely like, it's the only time I think I've ever read a book about, you know, somebody famous who passed away, and I was morose about it, like, you know, for weeks on end. Like, it felt so sad that this guy had passed away when right around the time he seems to kind of get his life together. But anyway, all right, Dave, just give folks a bit of a context on your background, what you do, and you know, because you didn't just stumble onto the live stream by mistake. So you and I have been corresponding for quite a while. So
well, yeah, I stumbled upon the podcast through Mike Hill, actually. I was listening to him on his Gimme Radio podcast that he was doing, and you talked about that Gorgoroth record, Ad Majorum Satana Gloriam, or whatever it's called.
I remember.
Did I say that correctly?
I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ad Majorum Satanas Gloriam.
Satanas Gloriam. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You got to say it grimly like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I liked the conversation that you had, and you mentioned that you had this podcast going. And when I found it, I was like, wow, he's interviewing all these people that like, it's like everyone in my favorite band, like Ruins of Beverast, and I think you had Sakis on by that time, and so I just went back and I caught up on everything, and then became a regular listener, and you know, had to shut you out every week because it was like every week you knock it out of the park. And that's also how Evan and I got in touch. Been a fan of his music because of the podcast, and a lot of there's a few on my list that I do owe the podcast for turning me on to as well. So,
and you do a bunch of reviews and stuff on your Instagram and things like that as well. Because I've also picked up a couple of things from you, including one that's on my list that we'll talk about later. But you know, it's partly the fact that the adoration of the show, being part of the Legion, partly your metal knowledge that has earned you this prestigious spot on this historic episode. So
yeah, well, I started the reviewing just purely for fun, because writing is something that I enjoy doing. I write stupid little, you know, horror stories because I'm a big horror fan on the side, just for fun too. And in the town that I live in, I'm in this place called Arnprior that's just outside of the nation's capital of Ottawa. It's kind of country hick out here, so there's not a lot of metalheads around. So I kind of don't have much to talk to. Like, I don't have very many people to talk to about, hey, did you hear the new this or the new that? So I started the page to kind of like reach out to like-minded people, and, you know, I'm enjoying listening to this. Maybe you guys would enjoy listening to this. And I don't have a gazillion followers, but the amount that I do have, like, these people, they keep in touch with me. You guys keep in touch with me. It's a nice little community that I have going on my page, and it's nice to.
Dave, was there ever like a thing that like what prompted off like doing the reviews? Like, were you a fan of somebody else that did it, or like it just one day you just wanted to talk about it so much you liked it because you liked it so much or something?
There was a time when I think I was in high school actually, where Facebook actually had, you could write notes. There was like a note. I don't know if you call it like an app for Facebook or whatever.
Sure.
And I was doing little blurb reviews there on what I was listening to, because I was listening to a ton of records then, and I still listen to a ton of stuff now. So I kind of just took that, and I like the way that Instagram, you can display just like a full-on nice photo and showcase that to people as well.
Right.
And there's not much of a limit like Twitter with a limit, or, you know, you have to make your post public on Facebook and whatnot. Instagram is kind of freeing to just post whatever you want, and, you know, anybody can really see it. And you can hashtag and that kind of helps gain a little more momentum for the post as well. So I enjoy that aspect, and I enjoy the visual aspect of Instagram as well, with displaying the pictures of what I'm listening to. I try not to post my ugly mug too much.
Like, I think that's one of the best platforms out there right now.
Well, I mean, that's aside from your OnlyFans account, which I know you. Which is why you're currently lustfully brushing your hair on camera.
Our kids are watching right now, man.
just a big shout out, yeah. Swartolf posted very nice compliment. Jack's the greatest podcaster. I had a fucking blast having you on, Swartolf, and then we are definitely going to do a sequel in 2023. I just hope the internet can handle it, because that was like one of the craziest podcasts in that I think we were talking for well over 3 hours, I think, and it just flew by. I think I noticed on my phone, like, Jesus Christ, is it really like 3 hours plus? And it was also one that could have just carried on.
It listened that way as well. Like I got caught up in that episode, and it just made the day go by,
Yeah,
like it was great.
You got me through my work day that day for sure. Yeah,
that's one of the greatest things about this podcast in general. I think is like a lot of people, I don't know this, maybe other than Joe Rogan or like Lex Friedman, are there any podcasts that I personally listen to that can keep me engaged the entire length of a 3-hour podcast? And this one absolutely does that. So, I mean, kudos to you, but like, I think that's one of the things that's really awesome about this podcast in general.
Yeah, well, I very much appreciate that. And Thomas Lipinski, I'm going to apologize if I've mispronounced his surname. Thanks very much for the shout out. Same with Konstantinos 666, which is like the most metal name ever. Yeah, thanks very much for the shout outs, and keep the comments and the questions coming. Let's get to the business end of shit, because that's what people are here for. So how we're going to do this is top 10s for the Duke of Metal and for Evan. And then I will do my numbers 20 through 11. Let me just very quickly count down recap my 30 to 21, just so everybody knows, in case you missed the episode with Nathan. So at number 30, I had Temple of Void, Summoning the Slayer. At number 29, I had Power from Hell, Shadows Devouring Light. At number 28, I had every single Justin Trudeau supporter screaming in agony as I selected Destroyer 666, Never Surrender. Number 27, Psychroptic with Divine Counsel. Number 26, Veil Burner with their self-titled record. Septic Flesh at number 25 with Modern Primitive. Devenial Verdict with Ashblind at number 24. I'm hopefully going to have the Devenial Verdict guys on the podcast at some point pretty soon as well, which I'm very excited about because that album is fucking awesome. Blut aus Nord with Disharmonium at number 23. Crowbar with Zero and Below at number 22, and Haunter with Discarnate Ales at number 21. And you know that it is a fucking insane year for music when Crowbar and Blut aus Nord both don't even make the top 20. They were, when they came out, they were in the top 10. And I mean, like, the method for how I went through this was literally, I eventually created a short list and I listened through every single record back to back. Then I had I would compare tracks. Then I would come up with like a list that I'm reasonably happy with. And then fucking Carl Hikara sends me a message. Have you heard this, bro? That throws everything out of whack.
I'm gonna tell you,
and he did it no less. Sorry, he did it no less than 3 times. So just to put that in there, and I will highlight the records that he called out.
I'd like to also add that, like, I had to make a list of 10 bands, and I've been uncharacteristically a loner this past year, so I've listened to a lot of fucking music, and to have to narrow it down to 10 bands is, I would say, unfair to all the other bands. So I do have maybe a 1 or 2 honorable mentions, but this was a extremely difficult process for this year in particular. A lot of amazing stuff came out this year, and this was hard for me. So just going into this, just want to preface that this is my most listened to albums of 2022, but I don't want to say the best. I just want to say they're my favorites and most listened to, because I know I probably glazed over a bunch of shit, and a lot of people are going to hate me for it, but I can't remember everything I listened to this year. And I'm just going to base it off the stuff that stuck with me and I kept on listening to over and over again.
I would say that's become one of the things that definitely drives some of my decisions is what if I'm kind of caught with that in that Netflix paradox of what do I listen to today, or I'm busy with work and I just want to throw something on very quickly while I do something and I don't want to have to think about what I switch on. Those records that I go back to by default are records that in my mind they kind of naturally will be higher up on my list. I'm the same if somebody asks me about what's your favorite movies. I'll talk instantly about the first things that come to mind, because if it's the first thing that comes to mind, then technically speaking, it should be your favorite, right? Your favorite stuff you remember. I remember my favorite food. Somebody asked me, what's your favorite meal? I don't go broccoli. So, it's like, I go steak because that's what's on my mind straight away. So
it's hard when you're inundated with so much awesomeness all at once. It'd be like the equivalent of going to a really nice dinner and then having to pick what was your favorite dish that night. Like if you ate 15 different courses that night, it starts to blend in, and then strip that across the whole year. And plus there's like a couple bands I think I don't know yet, but I'm gonna guess Dave probably has a couple late entries, because there's a couple bands that had some late entries this year as well.
Oh yeah
I was
without
just
a
about
doubt.
to say,
I mean,
this is why we're doing this in late January, because unlike Decibel Magazine, we don't publish the list in November, just so we can
that's like
clicks.
celebrating
It's
Christmas when Thanksgiving hasn't even happened. Like that's
celebrating Christmas in September.
That's sacrilege right there.
Yeah, I never understood why they put their list out so early. And I mean, there's stuff that I won't lie. There's stuff on my list that came out on, I believe it was December 30th.
Yeah.
So there's people putting stuff out on New Year's Eve and right on the 31st. So
sure.
to put out something in October, September, or whatever that I was seeing, it's a discredit to all those other bands that are putting out real quality music. I mean, all the way to the end of the year.
It really sucks for those guys, because they don't get included in the list for like the 2023 either.
People are missing out on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a badass band, but you come out with an album in November 2022, and then you don't hit the list for the best album of the year on 2022, you're definitely not hitting the list on 23, because you're just gonna be washed away with all the new releases for then. Like all the Scooby-Doo metal that comes out from Ghost and stuff like that's gonna just like overshadow you.
All right. Speaking of which, let's kick things off. So Evan, you're number 10. I'm guessing it's Slipknot, but I'm not sure.
Actually, no. Well, I segued in with that like Scooby-Doo joke. So the Scooby-Doo. So my number 10 is Ghost. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to say I literally would have just booted you off.
No, my number 10 is a San Jose band. They're called Rip to Shreds, and they have an album that came out called Jubian. And I think this band is fantastic. They are very much like a band that's if you're a fan of like the old school sound of Entombed, or like that Swedish like buzzsaw stuff, Dismember, things like that, this band's going to be right up your alley. But I think they add just even more intensity and even more just attitude and stuff. And they're not like particularly like a younger band by any means, but they are, I guess, more or lesser unknown. And I just think I put them on my list because I listened to them a whole bunch. They have most of the guys I think are Japanese. A lot of the songs on the this album in particular have Japanese characters or kanji that like for their song titles and stuff. One of the songs, if you guys like want to check them out, that I liked a lot, is just called "In Solitude." It's really really neat and really really just old school death metal done with like a new found like joy. I think there's a youthfulness to it. It doesn't sound like a bunch of guys that grew up listening to this music and then just trying to rehash it. It's like kids that stumbled across it and like they love it and they want to make it their own. It's my best way of describing. So yeah, Rip to Shreds, Jubian is number 10 for me.
I definitely feel like I didn't give that record the time that it deserved. I heard that very dry Sunlight Studios type production, and not that I dislike it, but I just kind of immediately thought Gate Creeper, Entrails, and I was like, well, there's so much other stuff coming. It kind of it was deprioritized by virtue of the production values. But I do know a lot of people that like that album. I will definitely have to go back and I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a great.
And,
I think it's a great record. Yeah.
If you take your band name from a Terrorizer song, I mean, you must be a metal fan, you know. And that's what I get.
Yeah.
What I get out of these kids or guys. They might even be my age. I don't even know, honestly. I think they're younger though. But you know, they're metal fans, and you get that comes across in their music. And it's like sometimes like I just want that in a band, but a lot of my favorite bands, the stuff that they release, it doesn't really come up to par, like with giving me that same like angst and like, you know, ferocity that I got when I listened to their earlier albums when I was also younger. So hearing this is really nice because like it sounds fresh, and that's what I really liked about this album in particular.
Just before we get to Dave's number 10, did you see that Pete Sandoval has discontinued Terrorizer and he's rejoined David Vincent in I Am Orbit?
I actually knew, I had heard a rumor that was going to happen through some people I had been talking to. So, but it's yeah. I mean, the guy's, you know, I've met him too. You know, he's old and it's hard for him to drum too. You know? And Terrorizer's, you know, it's pretty intense and like pretty involved. But it doesn't really have the same draw that like Morbid does it? You know, so I understand the move to like just, you know, doing Morbid. If you're going to play extreme metal, you might as well do Morbid instead. I get it. Yeah, I totally.
The question that I have is he cooled down on his love for the Lord? Because, I mean, previously there was the reason given as to why he wasn't going to be in Morbid Angel anymore.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy. You know. I
didn't even know that.
I think that when people have lived a certain life in particular, and when they are used to income coming a certain way towards them, eventually they go back to that, right? I mean, I won't disparage like anything about Pantera, but like I saw this coming a mile away 10 years ago. You know, it's like money runs out, people need to fucking pay their bills, right? It's only getting more expensive out there. You're going to see a lot more.
It's actually you are wrong. It's for the brothers and for the fans, Pantera. So,
yeah. Sorry. I didn't. Am I breaking kayfabe right now?
yeah. You gotta be careful. You tread carefully, Evan. Oh,
I'm breaking kayfabe. Right. No. They're doing it just for the fans.
It's all good.
Dave, you're number 10.
Number 10. All right. So, actually, I made a post about this band just a few days ago. It's a French band. I'm not sure too much about them because they're very their main guy, I guess you could say, it's a one-man project, but then he hires different musicians to record and perform with them live. And if you've seen anything from this band live online, it's actually pretty mind-blowing. The melding of genres with this band is what drew me in when I first heard of it. And I knew it was black metal, but then they incorporate like brass instruments. There's like French accordions in it as well. And it's super warped. So my number 10 is Pensée et Nocturne with Du Safange. And yeah, this record it's weird at first if you're not prepared. So I think if you're going to listen to it, you got to go in with I guess you could say like a really open mind, because it's going to catch you off guard. But when it clicks, that's when the magic happens. And I think it's really mind blowing. It's really gripping as well. Like it doesn't lose me anywhere when I listen to it. And I've listened to it multiple times, and there's something new that I find with it every time that I listen to it. The main guy's name escapes me right now, but he's the guy that you'll see if you check them out on YouTube. And it's almost Joker makeup, I guess you could say. All the guys look like they're in a circus, and it comes across in the music. It really does. I know it sounds weird, and I'm probably maybe not selling it as well as I should, but when you do listen to it, it's pretty incredible what they do with molding all the extremities of black metal into literal like accordion and brass instruments as well, and it works really well.
I've never heard of it before. It kind of, the way you're describing it, it sounds a little bit to me like a mix between White Ward and Octurus.
Except it's not as bad as that White Ward record.
I did actually listen to this, Jackie, per his recommendation, and it does remind me of the aesthetically. It definitely has a lot in common with Arcturus, but you could also say it has aesthetically has a lot in common with like Flesh God Apocalypse, as far as like aesthetically, because like they like do this like you know that era of like just opulence in France, like where everyone had powdered faces and big wigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They play on that like aesthetic, but the music also has like a baroque. It's baroque, right? Like they have like this. It has this like baroque-esque.
That's the word that escaped me when I.
It has this like baroque-esque. And if you listen to like any Igor, I got a lot of Igor vibes, minus like the electronic techno aspects, but like with the melding of different genres and styles, and having like that more French, you know, countryman, sauve bleu, like sort of attitude, like forced into the music. That's what I got out of it. I actually thought that's a good album too. But I haven't listened to it as long as Dave has, so I couldn't give you 100% on that one.
Well, that's the joys
it's a longer
of doing.
listen. But
I was going to say that's the joys of doing these lists, is that you kind of you end up picking up a whole bunch of stuff that you missed the first time round. No matter how diligent you try and be, especially in a year like 2022, and I mean, there's just so many ridiculously good releases. It was fucking
for sure.
absolutely nuts.
That's going to be the whole I think the whole like episode. We're just going to be punching ourselves in the face.
How did I miss that? All right, your number 9, Evan.
So yeah, my number nine. I gotta say, I found this band because of an EP that they did. I think it was 2019, and they're slowly creeping up to be one of my favorite bands, just from America, like just doing their own thing. This is a band called Chat Pile, and this album that they released is called God's Country. But they're from Oklahoma, and I don't know, man, like they sound to me, they're really invoking a lot of like Nirvana, early Nirvana and early like Melvins, but they're doing it like with just so much ferocity, and it's metal music, man. It's like black metal music, but a la like the Melvins and a la like Nirvana. That's the only way I can really describe this band. And they're fantastic. The only reason that they're lower on my list is because they're newer, and I wanted to give them some shine. But I absolutely love this band. I listened to that EP that they did. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like there's like No Flesh Here or something like that, or Taking Off My Flesh or something like that. It's purple. It was a beautiful EP, and this album was fantastic. God's Country was fantastic. I look forward to hearing more from these guys. And they're like, I guess they're a bunch of stoner, dudes. They go on stage and they don't really take things. They're more punk rock in the sense, like they're out there like no shirts on and like just screaming and vibrating on stage and what have you. But this it's really, really compelling music, and I really, really like it. It puts me in a good mood. I like the album from start to finish, and I like their music from start to finish. So I think Dave even had them on one of his lists. But I put them at number 9. So Chat Pile from Oklahoma, God's Country.
They made my top 30. They didn't make my top 10, but yeah, that record made my top 30, and I totally agree. The vibe you get as soon as you listen to it is crazy. Like there's that one track where it's just the guy's voice, and I think there might be like some random noise in the background, and it's super intense, and then the whole band comes in, I think, at the end of the song. I haven't listened to it in a little while, but when the last time that I did, I you get chills in certain parts of that record. It's compelling. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I would recommend if you want to check out that album, God's Country. There's a song on there. I think it's number 2 or number 3. It's called Wicked Puppet Dance, and it's a phenomenal song. And as soon as you hear that song, you'll realize, like, with a name like Chat Pile, they're not just like another silly band. Like, they're serious musicians, and it's an amazing song. But like, it's different. It's just different, and I appreciate different in a world of copycat artists and stuff like that. So they get my number 9 for 100. Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right, Dave, your number 9.
Number 9. Okay. So this is someone that Jackie has had on the podcast before. He's part of this band. It goes without question. Goat Whore, Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven is my number 9. I've messaged Jackie a while back when Sammy was going to be on, and I'll say it till the day that I die. The best club show that I've ever seen is courtesy of Goat Whore. I mean, those guys bring it live. Sammy looks like he's possessed by some demonic entity when he plays. He's got this snarl on his face with every single riff, and that comes across in the music, especially on this record. I think they've stepped up their game a lot from the previous one, and it's not to say that the previous one wasn't good. I think this one just is firing on all cylinders even more than they usually do, and they usually fire on all cylinders with every record. He's a riff master. Ben's vocals are insane. Yeah, just everything about it ticks every box off for me. It's an excellent album, and yeah, there's not much more I can say about it. It's Goat Whore. You either love him or you hate him, I think.
I've been a big fan of theirs ever since Funeral Dirge for the Rotting Sun.
Sure.
And when Sammy mentioned that this was going to that this was going to kind of move back in that direction, I was immediately excited, because I thought, okay, this is gonna, if they bring back a bit of that darkness that, I felt like it had maybe been a little bit missing from Vengeful Ascension, and actually also from Constricting the Rage of the Merciless, then it was going to be a full bore Goat Whore at their absolute best type record. And I would definitely say it's the best album that they've done, certainly since Carving Out the Eyes of God. I think A Haunting Curse and Carving Out the Eyes of God were like a 1-2 punch for me of just pure fucking genius. I mean, it's not just genius, but it's like the right attitude, the right approach from start to finish. I've never gotten to see them live, because all the times that they've come to play in the UK, for whatever reason, I've always been otherwise occupied and I've not been able to go. But I love Ben's vocals, and Sammy has been a blast every single time he's been on the show. Obviously, it was personally for me especially enjoyable talking to him about Acid Bath, because I'm a massive fan of that band. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude, and you can definitely tell he's that motherfucker has lived a life. So, Evan, your thoughts on that record?
This is one of the ones that actually, unfortunately, landed in my my honorable mentions. Considering it came out in October, and I just didn't get around to giving this album the love that it should. I know 100%. I did listen to it a few times. There is, I think there's now a song on that album called "The Devil's Warlords." It's a fucking fantastic album. The title track off this album is amazing. I was recently listening to this when I was doing this list again to see if I was going to put them on the list, but I just didn't feel it was fair, considering I didn't give it the amount of time that I should have. But I'm a longtime fan of Goat Whore, and I think Goat Whore should always be included in the conversation whenever you're talking about just metal in general, because those guys are not only they pretty solid dudes, but they're also just like, they're veterans. They tour all the time. They're fantastic, musicians in their own right, and they always put on a really good show too. So I don't have any problem with them being on the list. I wanted to put them on my list as well, so I think they deserve on the list. Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Cool. Mm-hmm. All right, Evan Golden Hopper, your number 8.
My number 8 is from Dave's neck of the woods. It's Ken Mode. I loved Null. I thought Null was a great album. I listened to this a lot, actually. I love that style of metal. I love that just chaotic, a la. I grew up with bands, listening to bands like the Dead Guy and Dillinger Escape Plan, and I definitely like that aesthetic, and I think Ken Mode really, they encapsulate that, but they also like make it their own, and they have their own voice. It's Ken Mode when you're listening to it. It's no confusing that it's Ken Mode. And Noel was awesome to me. I really really liked that album, and I listened to it quite a lot this year. The song that I apparently listened to the most was called "Throw Your Phone in the River." But I love that song. I love that album. I think they just and I've seen you've had it was a Scott
Jesse.
you had on?
No, I've had Jesse on twice.
Yeah. And then Mike had Scott on, and like they all just like were just super nice dudes. They seemed like super down to earth and awesome, but they put out like this super aggressive, like the only way I can like say about those vocals, I love that vocal style. I'm a big fan of that, even though I don't do it myself. I really like that. Just it sounds like your teeth are gnashing together and you have a bunch of spit in your mouth when you're screaming, and it's just like it's pure ferocity. And I think Ken Mode is number 8 for me.
I love that record as well. I love Ken Mode. I'm very surprised they're not a bigger band than they are. I would say definitely one thing with them is one of the most pleasant things meeting Jesse, because he in many ways he's exactly what I expected, but also exactly the opposite of what I expected. It's like Ken Mode's music to me is if you could turn violence into like a sonic expression, that's basically Ken Mode.
Exactly.
Weirdly enough,
that's what I like about that style of what they do.
They are actually extremely good when they slow things down. There's a song on, I'm going to just find the record's name now because I will butcher it otherwise. It's the record that they put out in 2013. I think it's called Entrench. Yeah, it's called Entrench. And the song is called Romeo Must Never Know. And it's this really mellow song, like got Fugazi vibes from the Argument, the last Fugazi record. Absolute fucking genius. I wish they would do something, another track in that style, because it suits them really well. And on a record as violent as Entrenched, it actually is a nice kind of it's a nice sort of breather and a nice way to sort of set the tone for the rest of what's coming.
There's a nice little group of guys that are like that, like you've got, I mean, some are inactive now, but it's like there are still some of the dudes that do that hardcore metal thing, not metalcore, but like that hardcore background with like, but like I said, like Dillinger or Dead Guy or even ISIS back in the day and bands like this, and Ken Mode, obviously. But there's still people out there doing that kind of stuff. There's a great YouTube channel called Hate 96 that you can watch all these like awesome hardcore bands playing, and every once in a while they'll have a band come through there. I'll just be watching, like, just going through the channels and looking at the new bands that everyone's liking and stuff. And there's still bands out there trying to like, still do that, that mathy, just whatever that genre is, like that moment in time of music. There's still people out there that really have an affinity for it, and I'm pro that, because I still think that it has a place in metal music overall. It's a really good genre. It's somewhere in between punk and grindcore and progressive, and it's great that exists.
Yeah. All right, young David. Number 8 on your list.
Number 8. All right. So my number 8 is Absent in Body, with their self-titled. I think this was a shoe-in to be in the top 10 from the first time I heard it. And I know between the three of us, we've all geeked out over it in messaging and whatnot. And just recently, Jackie, you sent me the, I think it's a teaser or something. I don't know what it is. It was kind of cryptic.
I think they're advertising that they're moving on, but they're moving on without
Mr.
Without Scott. Well, Scott best watch his step, because he'll end up on Eliza Blue's list of of abusers. But but yeah, I will just say, because I know you and I spoke about this, and actually I mentioned this. I may be mentioning this on next week's episode too. I think that a lot of people that remove them from their list, it's a hypocritical load of fucking bullshit. Because number one, there were 3 other men involved in that band, and they all worked very hard. And there's, you know, none of them have, you know, sketchy or have sketchy pastimes. So I don't think you can detract from what they did. Secondly, like I said on the news rant many times before, you can remove a band like Absent and Body from your list right as soon as you vow to never again talk about Black Sabbath in a positive light, never again talk about Motley Crue positively. You're never allowed to talk about Guns N' Roses positively. None of these high-profile bands that had members in that were either abusive to women or acted in a misogynistic way. I mean, you know, The Dirt is a great example. I mean, even the story in the Ministry autobiography, Al Jorgensen's autobiography, where he talks about like having sex with a woman that he eventually married and then like handcuffing her to a radiator and leaving. I mean, that's fucked up what he did. If he did that to a friend of mine, I'd be pissed off at him. But I mean, does it mean that people are suddenly disavowing Ministry en masse? No. So Scott's business is his business. It doesn't take away from the fact that the album was fucking genius. Absolute genius.
Oh, 100%.
I think it's one of the first albums.
That band that Tim Lambest guy was in. You don't get to cancel the band just because the guy was a piece of shit.
Was a scumbag, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tim Lambest is now. He's As I Lay Crying.
Yeah, is that what they're called? As I Lay. I kept on thinking My Giant Bride, but I knew that wasn't it. It was As I Lay Crying.
No, that's not even close. But yeah, well, I use them for gym tunes, but As I Lay Crying can. I don't know. They're hitting. I was
about to say though, Tim Lambest has like a fitness channel or something on YouTube now, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's almost impossible to get canceled now.
Yeah.
Away from everyone was getting canceled to now, you can fucking do anything you want, really.
Oh, yeah.
But
I still tread. I still tread lightly. Thank you.
All right. Speaking of which, will your number 7 get you canceled? What have you got?
But my number 7 get me canceled. I don't think my number 7 is going to get me canceled at all. I do think some people might think that I should have had my number 7 a little bit higher. But number 7 is Black Braid for me. I want to like be very transparent and say that at first listen, I was a bit judgmental towards this band because I thought that they were just another one of these neo black metal bands that are trying to invoke like the thing that like everybody likes to see in those kind of bands. So a la like nature shots and like dudes in hoodies and like having, you know, corpse paint, but it's not like messy. It's like really well manicured and stuff. And I mean, I on first listen, I thought they were good and all, but like I just didn't really give it any credit. I kind of wrote it off. I will say that I gave this album more than a good listen and more than a few listens. And I think Black Braid's actually, I don't know what they want as far as like stardom and stuff like that, but musically I stand behind this album. I think it was a really good album. I put it at 7 because I think it's not as good as some other stuff that came out, but I really for a first like mainstream attempt at this, I think it's a fantastic album, and I do look forward to hearing more from them. Absolutely.
It reminded me
my favorite song. I just want to throw it out there before I forget. It's Barefoot Ghost Dance on Blood-Soaked Soil. It's a great fucking black metal name, and it keeps with that Native American aesthetic. That, you know, and I think they're a New York band, but like a rural New York band. So the guy is like legit Native American, and he does like sing about that kind of stuff. So that's got some coolness to it, I suppose. But I mean, I guess you can be anybody and be a dickhead. But I think the songs are good. I think the music's good, and I hope they continue to write better music.
Yeah. No, I like that Black Braid record. I don't think that it spoke to me quite as much as it did a lot of other folks. But that being said, again, it came out during that deluge of a ridiculous amount of good stuff. So I probably also just need to spend a bit more time with me. What it did remind me of, and I throw this out as a massive compliment to the Black Braid folks. It reminded me a bit of Cobalt. And Cobalt to me is a band that is
good.
long
They are so
overdue
good.
for another Cobalt record. Slow Forever was fucking genius. Gin was absolutely amazing. I don't actually think of the 4 records Cobalt did, I don't think they've ever put out anything that's remotely even wafting of mediocrity.
No, I agree. The Black Braid record was good. I was listening to it a ton when it first came out, and then just like you were saying, like with the amount of stuff that was coming out, I lost track of it, and it didn't make my list just because I lost track.
Well, for me, it was like a lot of people I respected kept on bringing it up in conversation offhandedly, like we weren't even talking about it. It just get a message and someone's like, "Hey, have you checked out the new Black Braid?" You know, and eventually I was like, "Fuck, fine, I'll listen to it." And I think I get why people like it a lot, and I do like it. I like it, and I'm putting it up there because it's the first. Again, these are like just the favorite things I like, but this is the first like black metal thing that I'm putting on the list. So as far as black metal concerns, it's at the end of my black metal list of favorite things, but it's still a good album, and I think that they are worth some of the hype, and I hope that they will continue to do like better and better stuff because I'm interested, and I think they have they have like that nice like aesthetic of being a 2-piece band, and like and having whatever the setup that they have really good production, and obviously someone in that band knows how to like shoot film and do makeup, and so if they're able to like continue to move that forward, I see big things for them. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Speaking of big things, they just got announced today they're going to be on the Decibel magazine tour with 200 Stab Wounds, Cattle Decapitation, and Dark Funeral.
Okay,
actually,
that is a big thing.
Yeah, that's
a big yeah. And the only place that's coming near me is Montreal, and I'm probably going to end up missing it. So that's.
I just want to give a shout out as well. They are represented by in my view one of the best as far as PR is concerned. They're on they're part of Katie's Suspiria roster.
Oh, cool.
So Katie Irizarry for folks that don't know. Okay, Dave, you're number 7.
Number 7. I don't know if this is going to get me canceled because I know I've seen comments online about these guys are Nazis and they're racist because of their past things and whatnot.
Bring their name up on this podcast.
Screwdriver, everybody.
But my number 7 is it's too good to not include, and it's Hate Forest with Innermost. That thing dropped out of nowhere like a funeral mist, and it blew my mind just like Hour of the Centaur did. Hour of the Centaur, the previous record, came out on Christmas Day. I think this came out, I think it was like Boxing Day or something. I can't even remember. It was near the end of the year, but it came out of nowhere. And it blew my mind again. Everything these guys do is excellent. And aside from what people have been saying, which is in the past, and whatever insignia they might have used or been caught using, they've denounced since. And I think people need to move the fuck on because you're missing out on some incredible music. And Innermost is one of the best things I've ever done. From start to finish, this thing is brutal. It's just unrelenting, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's my number 7.
I 100% concur with you. Awesome record. Like totally uncompromising, just grim, gritty, violent, vile black metal. And I think it's the best thing that they've ever done by far. I mean, it's a record that is immediately absorbing, but the longer you listen to it, the more you kind of start to appreciate the nuances in the album. Absolutely top notch. Okay. Evan, we're up to number 6 now, right?
Yeah. So for me, 6 is Misbliming, Med Hamri, from Iceland. I think anybody who's listens to this podcast is a fan of Misbliming. I think they're fucking fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Egan Meanskon is like my favorite song on this track on this album. It's just I don't know if it's as good. I did mention this to you in chat like a while back. Like I don't know if it's exactly as good as the 2019 release that they had, but I am still a huge fan of this band. Everything that they do, I think, is just gold. And I think what this album represents is more of a where like the 2019 was a little bit more out there, like just in concepts and stuff. This is like a more refined, like taking all the things that you liked from the last release and just like honing in on most of it. But it's a fantastic album. I listen to it often. They always give me like good black metal, and like sometimes it's hard to find good black metal, especially out of like people that you expect good black metal out of. So I'm happy these guys are out there doing it, and this is my number 6, 100%. Miss Thing.
It's an incredible record, and it's a I'll reserve some of my commentary about it because it may come up as a topic of conversation next week. But it's firstly, I think it's the best thing that they've ever done. I think it's better than their previous record. It's more aggressive. Cool. It's more manly, which is part of why I love it so much. It has almost every single element of black metal that I love bunched up into one. It feels like, it's got that really grim atmosphere of Dunkelheit. There's like these touches of it, these like very simplistic like keyboard bits that they throw in, and then there's like this like pulsing, grinding, almost like Marduk at their best when they do like Blonde Beast and songs like that. It's got that kind of vibe, but they do it in a way that's very original and very unique to them. I love every single thing about this band.
This is an album I can listen to it if I'm like writing music. I can listen to it if I'm like going for a hike. I can listen to it when I'm driving. It's just like it always and I always get sucked into it. Whatever I'm doing, like I find myself getting lost in their music, and that's they've like I have my eye on this band. I don't know if they'll ever like write like the best album ever, but they're like one of my favorites. Absolutely. It's just lower in the list, but it's not because I don't like it. Just didn't listen to it as much as I should have. But they're a fantastic band, and I mean, I think everything that they do is it shows great promise, and they continue to get better and better. If you don't know this band, look them up, man. They're worth listening to. They really, really are. They're amazing. And their shows are cool too, which is weird about their shows. They're this black metal band, but I swear every time I think I've seen them twice now. Every time like they play, a bunch of people show up and they like light up a bunch of joints of marijuana, and like they're not a stoner band, but like whenever they play, there's just weed always like getting passed around. And like I remember one time, the first time I saw them live, I was standing and like this guy passed me a joint. He's just like, "You're gonna want this." And I'm like, okay, fine. And then I smoke it and then like pass it to another person. And he was right, because you just stand there and you're just stoned and you're just watching, hyper focused on them. And it was a glorious experience. Yeah, they're a great band. I look forward to seeing more of them. I hope I do.
They are. This is my last comment about them. When you have these dusty old farts like Nocturno Culto and fucking Nurgle and all these other dickheads, talk about how the scene is dying and there's nothing good coming out. It's like that is a great example of a band to throw in their face and go, okay, if you have made something in the course of the last decade that comes close to this, then you can talk. If not, shut the fuck up.
And tell me something. You got the new on a fucking island out in the middle of nowhere. Like everyone in Sweden or Norway or fucking anywhere else lives in like some big metropolitan city. These people still live on an ice covered, volcanic covered island. I think it adds to the aesthetic a little bit.
Yeah. Dave, you were gonna say?
The only reason they're not on my list is I've only listened to that record twice so far. So I feel like if I was going to include it, it needs more credit with listens. But the times that I have listened to it, and I do most of my listening driving to and from work, it's one of those records where you like everyone was saying, you kind of disappear into it, And I look down at the dashboard and oh, I'm speeding now. Oh shit, I better slow down. The thing is unrelenting. It's really good. I just need to listen to it more, and I need to go back to their discography because you guys are selling it so well. And they are a newer band to me, but I guess I'm a young buck in certain ways, and I need to educate myself more with this band for sure. But the time that I have listened to it, it's excellent. It really is. Yeah, I agree.
All right, on to your number 6.
Number 6, another alumni, you could say. I can't say enough good things about this band, and this album is mind blowing, and it's another one, like we were just saying, you can kind of get lost in this one as well, and that's Alpha with All That Has Never Been True. I think this is like ticking as far as like, and I might say this more than once, is ticking off all the boxes for me for black metal. Also does that so well and with such ease. This record it flows so nicely. The dynamics on it, the vocals, the musicianship, everything about it is just as close to perfection, I think, as black metal can come. And I really, really fell in love with it. And it was one of those records too, where it can just drop, and the trajectory of it with as far as like people talking about it and people saying that they're instantly in love with it. It's one of those few that I think happened last year. And I think it's a testament to just the brilliance of the music. And I know Ralph was on and you guys talked about the record and everything like that. He's phenomenal with what he does. I'm a big fan, and I think it would be an injustice to not have them in my top 10. So that's my number 6 is Alpha.
Well, good news is that Ralph is going to be at Reaperfest in Derby on the 29th of July. So I'm definitely going to be there as well. So I'm excited about seeing them live. I'm even more excited about getting to do like a face-to-face episode with Ralph. I'm definitely going to be doing that. I'll hopefully do one with one of the Heathen Deity guys as well. So I'm this year I'm going to shoot for at least maybe 3 to 4 face-to-face, maybe more. I mean, if the opportunities are there, but at least a couple. And like I said, Ralph will definitely be one. But totally agree with you that album is a fucking absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
All right, Evan, your number 5.
Number 5. So this is a French band. This is a band called Celeste. They had an album that came out this year called Assassin. And I love this album. I put it on. It came on randomly for me. Actually, I wasn't familiar with them prior to this album. I guess it came up in a mix or somewhere, maybe on Bandcamp. I can't really remember. But I had it on. I was working and I had it on like repeat, and I realized I hadn't taken it off a repeat for like an hour. And I just kept on listening to it, and it's a fantastic album, man. It's like it's got elements of there's things that I guess would teeter on being like breakdown kind of music, lots of chugging and syncopated like chords that are played along like in time with like the double bass on a guitar, but it breaks into these beautiful black metal moments like throughout the whole album. And I don't really know where to actually place this album genre-ly, or I don't know if that's a word, but I made it up right now. Genre-ly, I don't know where you would place this album. It's somewhere in between like a hardcore album and a black metal album. I love the artwork of this album. It's got this young woman, like it's all black and white, so like that's already got like this, like Schindler's List or Raging Bull like aesthetic. It's like just really the contrast makes things more emotional, and then it's all these hands on this woman's face, and the album just like invokes such a cool feeling. And from start to finish on this album, I was never bored, and I'm still never bored with it. I still listen to it weekly. So yeah, Celeste Assassin, and the song that I want to mention is excuse my French, but it's De Tom You Bleu Parler. I think it's number 2 or number 3 on that album, and it's a fantastic fucking song. And I think it's a good intro to like the whole vibe of what they throw down. So yeah, that's my number 5.
I think the thing that hurt them the most actually is when they released that record, because if memory serves me correctly, I think they put it out on the same day as Immolation put out their new one, and I think everyone was so hyped up for Immolation that they ended up, or that this one ended up flying under the radar. And I do agree with you. I mean, one, more people should have paid attention to it, but two, it's superb. It reminded me, it felt like it could stand shoulder to shoulder with something like Vigedoet.
Sure. Yeah.
But great stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't listen to it as much, but the times that I did, it was pretty what's the word? It's a strong record from start to finish for sure. But yeah, I think I ended up, my most listened to artist according to Spotify this year was Immolation. So I think that ended up taking the precedent for me when I was listening to it. But definitely, it's excuse me, it's going to be one that I have to go back to for sure.
I highly recommend it. I think it's worth a check out if anybody's like glanced over it and maybe been adverse because of the name or like the look of the album. I would say go ahead and just jump into it, because it surprised me a lot, and I think it was really well produced. And like I said, if you're a fan of metal in general, this really has a wide variety that it offers you, black metal and more like just headbanging stuff too. But it's done really well. I really like this album a lot.
Cool. All right, Dave, number 5.
Okay, number 5, we have a release from Hell's Headbangers, and this is Satanic Warmaster's latest one with Amon Gander. If I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, forgive me if I didn't. Another band, I guess you could say, has been shrouded with controversy in their career, particularly with the main man Werewolf. I know he goes by different aliases. A mysterious figure, but there's a really good interview with him online with Rauta from Finland, and I think that guy did some really cool interviews.
That's a good one.
Yeah, for some reason YouTube like blurred it out though, but the audio is still there, so you can still listen to it, and it's pretty compelling.
I don't want to interrupt your thing.
Yeah.
But just so you know, Rauta's done a couple Quell reviews, and I asked Rauta about that. Rauta actually did that because his channel was that video was getting demonetized, and it was one of his most popular interviews that he had on his YouTube channel. So he actually blurred it out.
Oh shit! Okay.
But why would they blur? Oh, sorry. Why would they demonetize the video just because you can see what the guy looks like?
Because then it's like having like the Thulian Perspective channel, right? It's like you're glorifying a white supremacist.
Fair enough.
Oh, it was that whole thing. Right?
Even
you
though
probably have Varg videos on YouTube if you blur out Varg's face, right? Because it's all about just like not giving the guy like the time of day or the credit, right?
Yeah. Do you know? I know he had the same pushback on the Dagon interviews that he had on.
No, which is surprising. Dagon from Horna, right? You're talking, or
no. Dagon from Inquisition.
Oh no. In fact, that had was completely monetized from what I know, and the comments were really like in favor of having that interview. I was more surprised of the vocalist from Horna, not getting any sort of, because he's been not because maybe he's not necessarily a Nazi in his life, but he's been associated with bands as well too. And it's always like that thing, they had Goat Lord, on there as well too, and those videos get a pass. I think it's just like there's some bands that are just more known than others. You know what I mean? There's plenty
they have the stink to them.
Yeah, right. Well, squares don't know fucking anything about metal, so only a couple. You probably have to really stand out, to like get on the radar of any square that doesn't like listen to.
Well, did you see this woman in? She's like a pop star or something in Sweden. Who's just had a ton of shit because she wore a dress.
So she is. I don't remember her name.
With the Burzum,
vocalist. She's a singer in Sweden. And I actually, this is really funny because I actually had like like a half-hour conversation last night with a buddy of mine, Daniel, who is Swedish, lives in Stockholm, and we talked about it. And I think we came to the conclusion that we don't really hate her for it because she's probably just going from thing to thing to thing, and they're just putting stuff on her because it's like, you know, she should have asked the question of like, you know, so she could talk about like what she's wearing. But at the same time, I don't know if she even like put two thoughts into like the clothes that like was putting on her. Now you can go to like someone like Chris Brown, who like wore a fucking battle vest that had like the Exploited and Slayer and all this kind of stuff like painted on it with like metal studs, and be like, okay, that's an asshole because that guy like clearly is wearing that, you know, to look cool. But this girl, she was wearing a designer dress. The designer's the one that put that stuff on there. I want to give her a pass because I don't think she really knew.
I think she looked lovely in that, number one. Yeah. I think it was a very empowering outfit. The second thing that I would say, I personally don't give two shits what people wear. Whether Chris Brown wears a battle jacket or not. There's so many people at metal shows wearing battle jackets who I would fucking drive over with a tractor if it was legally allowable to do so. I've never bought into that idea of, you know, someone's a dick because I mean like there's not such a thing to me as like our stuff. Like our scene is more of a, I don't know, it's more of a feeling. And I spoke to Mike about this too. It's like I think maybe it's because I've never bought into the idea of you know, the wider metal community and, you know, feeling any sort of sympathy for any idea like that. I have friends, I've got people that I'm close to. I think we've developed quite a nice organic circle, you know, via this podcast. But I mean, I'm my own man. I have my own thoughts and my own ideas, and you know, they don't have to align with people for me to be friends with them. But equally, like stuff like band merchandise and things like that. If a Kardashian wearing a band's t-shirt helps that band sell, you know, a couple more t-shirts, I'm good with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
even if it's a bunch of dickheads that wear it.
It's not that particular singer went out there and was like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of fucking Cannibal Corpse, and then like she can't name a song.
He's like, that Philosophy album, what a crowd pleaser.
But yeah, as far as the record goes, it's incredible. And if you can separate the past bullshit with, and I guess there was one EP and there was a swastika used or something like that on it. But as far as anything else that I've seen, I've never seen him, the Satanic War Master, completely, you know, show off or play a white supremacist festival or anything like that. I know he's at Steel Fest was controversial with whatever, but we won't even get into that. I think the record itself, as far as ticking off the boxes for me, it's a great black metal record. It's chock full of amazing riffs. The vocals are disgustingly brilliant, I guess you could say. He's got quite the vocal performance on it. And yeah, I think it deserves to be a little more known. It was one of those ones that came out on like December 30th, which is exactly what you would expect from a figure like that. You know, I'm just going to put out my record, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. Yeah. And if you haven't listened to it, yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a great record. Yeah, hopefully no one cancels me. But
in general, I just want to say that I'm not like the hugest fan, but Satanic War Master is a fucking fantastic band. They have a lot of good music throughout their career, and if you are a fan of bands like Marduk and you know and like, you know, second wave black metal, and you're not familiar with them, I think you should give it a chance. You know, make your mind up later on down the line if you want to support it or not based on, you know, what people say, but give the music a shot because it's really good. I stand behind listening to the music of Satanic War Master.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Number 4 for you, Evan.
Number 4 for me is coming straight from Portugal. It's Garia with Mirage. This album was fantastic. I don't know if you haven't listened to it, you're probably living under a rock because it's been very healthily like advertised, and I think it's a great album start to finish. and it just it's again, like you had mentioned earlier, Jackie. Like, if people are out there saying that black metal is dead, I'd like them to listen to this album from start to finish, and then come back and say that to my face, because this album's fantastic. Deluge and Salve are two of the standout tracks for me that I really, really enjoy. And yeah, I mean, again, I don't think I need to give this band more accolades than they already have gotten in the past year, but I think they're deserving, and I think if you haven't listened to Korea yet or given them a chance yet, you should.
Yeah, no, I love that album as well. I love the concept of the band. I love the aesthetic of the band. They're a band that you can feel there's something big that's going to happen for them. I get the same vibe as I got when I first met Nurgle. I get the same vibe from them as I got when I first saw Mastodon. Just like I saw Mastodon in a the Underworld in London, and it was, I mean, the venue was only half full. And like 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, 2 years later, they were packing out the Brixton Academy. So it's you can just tell big things are coming for them. Great record.
Yeah.
I agree. You guys nailed it. Nothing much to say.
All right, Dave, you're number 4.
Number 4, a band that I cannot say enough good things about. Death metal, balls to the wall, knuckle dragging death metal, I believe, as they put it as. And that's Werewolves from the Cave to the Grave. Another band that I was introduced to through this podcast. Instantly hooked. I mean, these guys fire on all cylinders. It's the best death metal, I think, out there currently. It's so good. The musicianship, the vocals, and the pure barbarity in the music is just, it's great. I can listen to it when I'm having a workout. I can put it on in the car, put it on in my headphones when I'm fucking doing the dishes. It's just that good of a band. I think they're criminally underrated. I can't wait to see like the trajectory that these guys take. I mean, I know they're on Prosthetic Records. Big things are deserved for these guys. I wish more people knew about them too. I try not to shove it down people's throats, but I try to share them when I can. I think they're just excellent, and this record is excellent. And apparently they already have another record ready to go. So hopefully 2023 we see another Werewolves record, because I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah. I've actually dropped Sam Bean a note. I dropped him a note while I was on holiday. I'm going to have him on the podcast again pretty soon as well, because he and I, have recorded some absolutely top-notch conversations. So, he's a super smart guy. And he's equally easy to talk to about music, or if you want to get into geopolitics and some more intellectual shit, he's pretty easy to talk to about that too. But I think my love of Werewolves is reasonably well storied, reasonably well chronicled on this podcast. I mean, three of my favorite guys in the entire music scene. I think that they are. There's nothing else to say. I mean, I love that record. I love every single thing they've done. I love the whole concept. I think they inject the danger back into death metal that I think has been, at least for a period of time, was sorely lacking. I think the genre has made a pretty significant comeback, actually. But if you want that old school spice that you felt when you heard Deicide the first time, or when you heard Covenant for the first time, this is the band to be listening to. There is no one that holds a candle to them when it comes to that style of death metal.
Probably the best song titles in extreme metal currently too, with stuff like All the Better to Eat You With and stuff like that. Yeah. You can't help but love it, and I love everything about it. They're incredibly talented musicians, front to back. Everything about it is excellent. So
Michael Justice and James giving them a shout out as well, which is much appreciated. And folks, thanks very much for sticking around for as long as you have. If you have questions, or if you have any additional comments, keep dropping them in, and we'll respond to them as we go along.
Some of the horsemen are in the chat popping up, I can see.
Yeah,
well.
they are indeed. Well, I was about to say Carl has to be here because he's responsible for at least some degree of what happened to my list. All right, so Evan, your top 3. Oh, sorry, not your number 3, I should say.
Yeah, about top 3, number 3. So number 3 for me, I don't think this comes as any surprise. It's Immolation, Acts of God. If you don't know where they're from Yonkers, New York. They are, in my opinion, there are 2 bands that come to mind when you say, if someone asks me like what is death metal, I would say it's Cannibal Corpse and it's Immolation. And Immolation's always been one of my favorite bands of all time. I love them to death. And I think this was a fucking amazing album. I've listened to it nonstop since it came out. I got almost had a chance to see them tour this album, but they unfortunately were stuck in Mexico City and didn't end up in Baltimore, where I was going to go to see the show. So they didn't come. But I was really looking forward to seeing this album played live because it's just great. It's like everything about Immolation that I love, and with that time to, I guess, digest and like make an album that they really, really wanted to make. It sounds well thought out. It has that attitude that I love from them, and it has that weirdness. You know, there's the song on there, like Incineration Procession. It's like got this weird intro, which is just like always, like, you know, the guitars in Immolation are always a little bit weird, a little bit strange, and it just goes into this beautiful death metal song. I mean, if you don't already listen to Immolation, definitely listen to them and start with this album. It's fantastic. It's a fucking phenomenal album. It's my number 3.
I would also just give an extra shout out. I thought the artwork on this record was incredible. I mean, they always have good covers, but this was like a step above. I mean, it's a genuinely stunning piece of art.
Everything, the whole package is great. I don't think they sound like they're faltering, or they're not, and they're not putting out like some obituary song with major chords, and like, you know, they're not I don't know. They're just still Immolation, but somehow Immolation continues to evolve their sound and remain relevant and remain unique. You know, I mean, I know it's Immolation I'm listening to, but it sounds like a unique, you know, mile mark in like their fucking career. And I think this album is something that they can absolutely hang their hat on and say it's a fantastic album. It really is.
Yeah, totally agree. Number 3 for you, Dave.
All right, number 3. I don't want this to come across as like me kissing ass or anything like that either. I'll preface this with that. I genuinely really do love this record. From the moment I first heard it, it's represented by someone I know was wearing their heart on their sleeve and they made it and recorded it, and that's Quell, the Cultist Band. Yeah. Again, I'm not.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna make him cry.
It's not an ass kiss thing. It's nothing like that. I genuinely think that this is a great record from start to finish. It had an impact on me when I first listened to it. I just cranked it up the other day on the way to work. It still holds up. Everything about it is really, really. It's compelling. It's honest. It's an artist wearing his heart on his sleeve. I think it's really, really good. And I know you make an appearance on it as well, Jackie.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and everything about it. It again, it ticks off all the boxes for me. I really do enjoy it. It never left my rotation. I might have gone and listened to other things, but this stayed in my top 5 ever since its release, and it was released earlier in the year too. And that says something to me about how strong a record actually is. And yeah, again, I'm not trying to suck up to anybody or anything like that. It's just an excellent record, Evan. I really think it is.
I think it was such a massive step up for you as well. You know, from what because I'd enjoyed the EPs that you put out, but this was like, you know, 3 or 4 gear shifts, you know, for you creatively. And so I'm super excited about hearing what you come up with next, because I think I
just decided that I'm going to delete everything now. So
that's it. No more Quell.
You guys in 3 more years. No. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Jackie, too. I mean, that's amazing that you think that. And Coincidentally enough, my number 2 is Quell. No, that really means a lot, and I'm super humbled by that, man. It means, I definitely do try my best to write music that I want, that I am proud of, and that I hope other people like. So, getting that positive feedback is always nice, and when you do this sort of stuff, it's few and far between you get that positive feedback, but it is always nice. It always kind of gives you that little push you need sometimes, because you sometimes you do this and you don't know if anybody cares about it at all. So it's really nice to hear that, and I'm glad that you liked it a lot, because I was very happy with that album too. So.
Oh, dude, yeah, it speaks for itself. Yeah.
I don't know if it deserves to be number 2, but I thank you for putting it there. I really do.
Yeah. Did
we promote it to number 2, or was that number 3?
No, it was number 3.
Yeah,
oh,
number 3.
Sorry.
I don't know if it was, I don't know if it deserved to be number 2, but if it's number 3, you're an asshole.
You're first last, right? You're first last.
But I was gonna say, how did you coax Jackie to lend his screams on "Reap by the Scythe"?
I just told him he was gonna do it, and he did it. He was pretty gung ho. Honestly, Jackie was pretty much like game for it. I just contacted him one day and said, "Hey, I want you on this album," and I think it was like pretty last minute. I was like getting ready to go into. I had just gone into the studio and recorded all the vocals, and I sent him his track the next day, and he'd gotten me back his vocals the same day. It went really quickly, and there was no. Jackie wanted to do it, and Jackie has a history of singing metal and metal bands as well too. So I knew he'd be up for it, and I was happy to have him on
not particularly well. And then I started recording, and I realized about 5 takes in, I can't really do this anymore. And then I realized another 5 takes in, okay, I've got 2 more attempts at this, and then my voice is gone. So.
It turned out great. It turned out perfect.
It's a killer track. Yeah.
Evan, number 2.
All right, my number 2 is going to be controversial and probably strange to hear from me, but I listened to this album all year, and it doesn't even have any vocals on it. It's Russian Circles' Gnosis. Russian Circles are from Chicago, Illinois, and they're an instrumental metal band, but I thought this album was fantastic, and it really matched my mood for the entire year. And it's an album I can put on in the background and get other things done, like if I'm writing music or if I'm just trying to do whatever the fuck I'm doing. It's an album that just was constantly on. It was never got tired of it, never got sick of it. And I mean, Russian Circles, they aren't like my favorite band either, but this album, it just stuck out to me, and I think it's fantastic. I think there's a song on there called Conduit. I think it's one of the best songs on the album. Betrayal is another good one too. But yeah, Russian Circles Gnosis is my number 2. I know it's weird. It's not really like on a lot of people's lists and stuff, but I think it's very heavy. It has a lot of black metal elements in it. And I think overall, being that it's an instrumental album, I never got bored with it. And it's compelling and it's interesting. Every single time I listen to it, I find something new. So yeah, it gets again, like I said, I have to like base it off of what I've listened to all year long, and I've listened to this album more than like I've listened to other stuff. So yeah, number 2 is Russian Circles.
You're banned from the show. No, it's I did listen to that record. Here's the bone I'm going to pick with you though. You didn't like the Inferno record that came out a couple of years as much because you thought the vocals were buried, and you told me that it sounded like an instrumental record.
I know you, and I like how you kept it kind of like mum, that you didn't know who the person was that had mentioned that to you in like the last episode you were talking.
Yeah, exactly. I was now you're being named and shamed. So.
No, well, that was different because I was like hearing vocals, but they were like so far back in the mix that like I couldn't like
purposefully, because he's singing from the bowels of hell.
No, I don't know, man. It's a great album. It's not, as far as an instrumental album goes, it's not boring to me at all. And yeah, I don't know. I've listened to this album. I don't know, like few hundred hours I've put into this album. Like it's amazing.
All right.
To me.
Well,
yeah,
it is good. I am a Russian Circles fan. I just didn't put as much time into this record as it probably deserved this year, just because of the output. I think that day there was like at least 6 other records that came out that I was interested in too. But I have listened to them and I do enjoy it. I think they're doing really well for themselves too. I think they did. Were they not on tour with like Korn and like Evanescence or something? Like they were on the bill. They were like one of the odd bands.
I don't know.
Something like that. They've been doing really well for themselves. Yeah.
You're extending Evan's ban with every mention of bands like
all
that.
All I know is that like this album popped up for me. I started listening to it, and then before I knew it, like I was putting it on more often. I was putting on other stuff, and I mean, but it's not like it's to me. It's fucking. It's just like that Celeste album. Like it's more like maybe like a mixture of like, you know, it's got that like atmospheric stuff that like something like Godspeed You Black Emperor might have, but it's like mixed with like tons and tons of black metal and heavy moments and stuff like that. It's like, and the whole album like ebbs and flows, like it's a concept piece. And so like the whole thing like really feels good to listen to from start to finish. I don't know. I think it's a great album. I think I mean, you know, again, they're just my favorite albums of 2022. I don't know if it's the best album, but it's up there. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it either. And as much as I've listened to this album this year, I think it deserves, you know, a spot on the list.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I dig it. Yeah.
Dave,
I'm a fan of certain instrumental stuff. But yeah, I got to swoop in and bring the grimness.
I was about to say, let's bring this back to where it needs to be.
So my number 2, I mean,
you asshole, that's still metal.
My number 2 is probably like the most evil thing that I've heard all year. It's so good, and it's probably the best extreme metal drum performance that I've heard in like the last 10 years. The drumming is insane. And my number 2 is Nordjvel with Naval. If I said that correctly, yeah. This thing, from the moment I heard it, I know it came out the same day as Guerilla, and I do love the Guerilla record, but I think Nordjvel, this is like my kind of black metal. Like this is just, it's ferocious, it's evil. I mean, you look at the music video for Rats and Men. There's fire, there's burning crosses. Everything about it is just like, you're just like, holy shit. This album from start to finish is incredible, and Dominator's drumming is, I don't know how a human being can just like, he's so on point. It's crazy. And it flows so well too. Like it doesn't get like repetitive or anything like that. And to me, that's a testament to just an excellent black metal record. And I think as a whole, it's just unrelentingly evil, and it's brilliant as well. And I think Matt talked about it when you had him on with Kelly T.
Yeah.
He was talking about it too, and he was just like, how does a human being even drum like that? And I agree. It's insane. The whole record is insane, and that's why they're my number 2. Yeah, Nordjvel, brilliant band.
I would definitely agree with you that it's an incredible record. I also agree I prefer that to Mirage, even though Mirage is great. It was such a good album. I think had I not had Guerilla on the show, and had I not had access to the Mirage record, several weeks prior to doing that show, it could have almost slipped under the radar, just based on how good Naval was. And as Swatolf has pointed out there in the comments, he writes some of the lyrics for the band. He also wrote lyrics for another band that I actually played them on the podcast. I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but fucking superb band. But definitely there seems to be a bit of a revival for me in Norway of like, just not because Nordjvel have been around for a long time, but like the quality seems to be like more consistent. There's more releases coming out that are grabbing me and staying with me than I can remember for at least a period of time. Okay, so number 1s for the two of you, and then we'll dive into my 2211. So Evan, what was your number 1 record of 2022?
Well, again, this is my favorite, so I don't want to hate or judge.
Cardi B's
It's
Into the Necrosphere, episode
it
150.
goes no. It's werewolves. Werewolves werewolves from the Cave to the Grave is my number one. I listened to this album more than I listened to anything else this past year. It's everything that I want in metal music of that genre, and it hits every tick, everything, every kink, everything that I like. It just nails it perfectly. And yeah, for me, it's werewolves. Again, some of this is probably not gonna work with other people's lists, but for me, I listened to this. I just couldn't get enough of this album. It never got tiring to me. It always puts me in a good mood. If I'm driving down the road and I'm pissed off and there's some asshole driver, I'm in shitty traffic, I just put on We Are Better Than You and just drive. And it's the nicest feeling in the world. They're heavy as fuck, and they're unapologetically brutal, meathead death metal. It's perfect. It's metal made the way that metal is supposed to be made. And yeah, it's the best album of for me of 2022.
I think one of the greatest lines in any song on any record of the last 12 months is on Harvest of the Skulls, which is my favorite song of that album.
Yeah.
When Sam does the line them up for execution, I mean, that just captures the whole vibe of that band. But he is, and I've said this many times before, to me, he is, all those guys are, but he's top tier as far as death metal vocalists are concerned. He has an understanding of how to phrase and how to time death metal vocals like very, very, very few other men are able to demonstrate right now. That's for sure.
Well, musically too, it just hits it does everything perfectly. When you want a breakdown, there's a breakdown there. When you want a solo, there's a solo there. When you want that intense opening blast beat track with the guy screaming at the top of his lungs, some shrieky vocals, you got that. Everything there. It's all fucking there, Yeah. And along with the arrogance and the attitude that you would expect, we're not singing about fucking, some, I took acid, now I'm in some alternative dimension universe or some shit. No, it's just it's meathead fucking death metal just done perfectly. It's very barbaric, very caveman shit, but done well. It's not just breakdowns and brutal truth beatdowns. It's death metal with all the elements of everything I love in every death metal band, but concisely done and packaged in a beautiful album. So yeah. Cave to the Grave, number one for me.
Good choice. Vindicated yourself for the Russian Circles, number 2 choice.
That's fine. I'll live with that. Russian Circles. That's fine.
Dave, you're number 1.
Okay, number 1. It should come as no surprise. This band is just. There's not enough good things that I can say about them. I gush over them every time I listen to the record. The first 2 records that I heard from them blew my mind. And it's a band that I discovered again through this podcast, like I have done with a lot of brilliant bands. But this one, as soon as I heard the previous record before this one, it was this band came to top tier for me, and that's the Antichrist Imperium, Volume 3, Satan in His Original Glory. This band is just, it's like they're inhuman. It's insane what they do, and the shifts in the music during certain songs, how they can go from I think the best example of what they do is the song Vilest of Beasts, where there's almost it goes into one thing and then it goes into almost like a southern I Hate God groovy riff, and then it picks up into this evil it's death metal, and then it's black metal, and they just tick off every single box that I've ever wanted in an extreme metal band. And the first time I heard the album, I'm driving home from work and I'm just going, holy shit, how are they doing this? How can they're constantly topping themselves, and the song's not even over yet. And then by the time the record's over, you just want to start over again and go, what else can I pick up on? It's brilliant. I really enjoy the record. There's not enough good things that I can say about it. And if the guys are, if they're tuning in right now, or if they end up seeing this episode at a different time, kudos to you guys. You guys are masters at what you do. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing else could have been number one for me this year, because I beat the shit out of this record just like it beat the shit out of me. It's excellent.
Well, featuring 2/3 of werewolves, and I mean, I've known them, especially Matt, for a while now, and without a doubt, he is in the fucking prime of his life creatively and as a musician and as an artist. I mean, this record is, I probably can't talk about it too much because it's almost undoubtedly going to come up next week. I agree with every single thing that you said. I think that it's the best thing every single one of these guys has done in their entire career, which is saying something, because they all have extensive and very impressive discographies. The beauty of it is that they're able to be evil and brutal, and then Sam Loynes comes in and he throws like a David Bowie type vocal line in. You talk about the vilest of beasts. That opening, almost kind of relaxed, where he's the ceremony has begun through stained glass windows. It's so fucking brilliant. Because it's only like, the thing is, as I listen to it, I think to myself, it's only you guys that would have been able to come up with this and actually pull it off.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. They can throw in shit that is so unbelievably like borderline. That any other band, had they done it, they would have sounded just cringeworthy. And these guys do it in a way that just you listen to it and you're making me feel this, but it's so fucking insane to feel. I'm probably babbling now, but I think you know what I mean. It's like, why are you making me feel this so seriously when I know? I know. It's so tongue in cheek the way you're
they're talking about a black mass and climb into this circle with this a pentagram, but he makes it sound beautiful, and you're like, but you're talking about sacrificing a sacrificial debutante, and you're like, it's so well crafted and so well done. Tongue in cheek or not, it's just brilliant.
And then it has number one. Well, it has that whole like really sweet refrain at the end, that we kill for Satan. I mean, pure genius, absolute fucking
exactly.
Genius.
Yeah. I love that record. It's gonna be cranking it up for lifetime. It's I can't say enough good things about that record. And Matt's guitar playing, oh my god, he's inhuman. I think without a doubt, in the top 5 extreme metal guitar players, I think, of all time right now. And anybody that doesn't know this band, doesn't know Matt's playing, doesn't know Werewolves, you need to go listen to these guys right now, because it'll blow your fucking mind.
Well, he in my view, he has ascended to that level now where there are certain guitarists that when you hear them when you hear a riff, or when you hear a piece of guitar on a record, it's them straight away. Matt Pike is in that list, in my view. So Kirk Winstein is in that list. Dimebag's definitely in that list. Matt, to me, is on that level now, and that's like, there's like elite tier, and then there's top-notch tier. He's in the top-notch tier. So
exactly.
All right, let's run through my 20 to 11. This will be reasonably quick because we've already spoken about quite a lot of these records. But at number 20, I've got Guerrilla with Mirage. At number 19, I've got a Hate Forest with Innermost. At number 18, I've got Druids with Shadow Work, which was a massive surprise for me this year. I was very surprised by how well people responded to it when I had Keith on the podcast as well. And generally, just talking about the record, what got me into the album, bizarrely enough, I'd heard one song on the News Rant, really liked it. And then I never listened to the record again. And then a friend of mine who's like, almost every single thing must be black metal or it's rubbish. It's kind of his approach. He sent me a message out of the blue. He's like, have you listened to this Druids record yet? And I was like, no. And he's like, go and listen to it. And I listened to the album, and it was like, this is fucking incredible. It's almost exactly the kind of music that you would hope a band like Mastodon would have made had they not decided to go turn into a load of shit. It's just really, really good. And the guys are so humble, and I kind of feel like in I don't know whether if they're based in Iowa or whatever fucking backwoods dump they live in, they're kind of wasted there. Because if
Yep.
somebody were to pick this band up and they were to be pushed in the right way and tour with the right bands, they could be fucking huge. I don't know what they're like live, but musically, Jesus Christ, they're a talented bunch of guys. So yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, I implore you, listen to Shadow Work. It's really, really good. At number 17, I've got Abduction with Black Blood, which I'm very surprised has not had more love from some of the lists that I've been that I've been seeing. But I thought that, I mean, I've been a fan of Abduction since that band put out pretty much their first record.
They're my number 18 actually.
I loved All Pain Is Penance. Obviously, I've had AV on the podcast a couple of times. Hopefully, I'll see him when I'm at Reaper Fest as well. But geez, man, he really outdid himself with this album. I mean, this is like this is several steps up creatively, and it's got like a menace and a grimness. Like that music video, that dude that they have, like I it's probably come across on the podcast a couple of times, but I you know, image and like what I see projected on stage is reasonably important to me. That guy with a tattooed skull in the band, he looks like he's from a gang, but the fact that he's standing on stage playing black metal to me is so fucking cool. If you check out the music video for, I can't remember which song it was off the record, but you'll see it. Yeah, great record. And then another surprise, and I don't know if I'm imagining it, but Evan, I think you might have spoken to me about this album, and we both liked it very much as well. An independent release, but I do have to give these guys their props because it's a brilliant record. The band is Orob out of France. The record is called Aube Noir.
Yeah.
Very dark, progressive black metal. I am gobsmacked that these guys have not been signed, because the album is a fucking masterpiece, and that this is their debut blows my mind even more. Really cool, very unique as well, which I loved. Then at number 15, one of the great Carl Hikara curveballs, Dervaza with Ascending into Perdition.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Did he? Yeah. Okay. So Dave, you're familiar with
it. I've heard the record. Evan,
what's that?
I say, are you familiar with that?
No, that's the first time I've heard mention of them.
So, also their debut record. They are a two-piece band out of Italy. Oh, actually, Italy and Norway. It says on on Metal Archive, but kind of almost dabbling a little bit in that Mysterium vein of black metal, but you know, maybe a little more raw and a little bit more harsh. As a matter of fact, the production feels quite primitive, but like in a calculated way. The vocals are, you know, kind of more shout, less scream. But man, these guys know their way around a fucking guitar riff. There is a track on this record called "This Hungry Triumphant Darkness," which is like it does so many of the little things that I love. I love when I love when you have like a chug, when it's just like one note, like jin, 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 like just before a song starts, like there's no drums, it just builds up. And in black metal it works particularly well. And then when you kind of get through to the halfway mark, and you know, it's just like one chord that rings out with some dude screaming some menacing satanic shit over it. They do all of that stuff. Yeah, that really that threw my list into disarray, but I'm very happy that it did.
Didn't Cheyenne interview one of their members as well, if I recall?
I don't know, actually.
On one of the earlier episodes, I believe. I think that's where I found out the name.
Yeah, he very
Carl just saying,
could have, yeah.
Oh, Ritual
Death. Bloodshed. Okay. Yeah, Abyss Manifestations. Yeah. Carl just confirmed. Yeah, I was gonna say that's where I found the name from. Yeah. And I was surprised to know that they had just put out that record. Yes, I'm guilty. I didn't listen to it as much, but when I did listen to it, it's brilliant. It really is. It's vicious. Yeah.
At number 14, I had Campfire with Till Clover's Tucked.
That was really good too.
I was ready to write this off because I heard the first single, liked it. Second single I heard, and I was like, I don't care about this. And then again, you're kind of spoiled for choice, so you're not really bothering to go through stuff end to end. And then one day I was like, okay, I've listened to a bunch of music. Let's just give this campfire one quick spin through and see if it's worth anything. And it was like, I listened to it. Okay, I have to immediately listen to that again. And I did it about 5, 6, 7 times in one day. I OD'd on the record for, about 3-4 weeks. It's fucking brilliant. Then at number 13, I've got Norjevel with Novel. And then at number 12, this record was in my it was in my honorable mentions, then it went into the top 20, then it went into my top 15, and then it just made it all the way up here. And I swear to God, if it stayed there, if it had come out earlier in the year, based on how addictive I find this album, it may very well have found its way even higher up the list. It was actually one that you spoke about on your Instagram, Dave, which is why I checked it out. Spirit World with Death Western.
Oh yes.
Jesus. I mean, this is like, so I'd always hoped there would be like a band that I could see legitimately replace Power Trip in like that, thrash hardcore crossover style. These guys have done that, but then what they've done is they've sort of added that like Western Ennio Morricone soundtrack vibe to the album as well. And it's somehow, if you wrote it down on a piece of paper and you said these guys are going to take spaghetti Western soundtracks and they're going to blend it in with like pretty aggressive fucking meathead, hardcore thrash crossover music, you'd go, well, I don't know if that's going to really work. And these dudes just pull it off like it's nothing. The album is fucking superb. And I mean, again, a mark of quality for me is if a man can headbang wearing a Stetson and still look cool. And on the music video for the first single, you have that, which, again, bonus points for them. And then my number 11, and this is where I will hit pause until next week when I'm on with Mike to count out my top 10. There were a couple of these really kind of aggressive, thrashy black metal records this year, and obviously I have a couple in my list. I mentioned Destroyer 666 and Power from Hell, but I felt like this band was one of the bands that did it best in 2022, and that is Daiva. The record is Through Sheer Will and Black Magic. Man, what a absolute fucking blast! It was so much fun to get into this album, and it's just so completely like uncompromising, just relentless, hateful, nasty, like raw. And it has tons of those great moments where it's like, like crazy, like breakdown, or just attitude. It's not even, you don't even have to, like, they don't have to do anything particularly technical. It's just the way a chord is played or the way a riff is kind of brought in or the way like they build up to a blast. I was actually when we were driving around in South Africa, I actually pointed out I pointed it out to Paige, my fiance, and even she picked it up. She's like, "Okay, yeah, I can kind of hear what you're referring to here." And she's not into metal whatsoever, so she was like, even she could sense the genius of these guys. Also, a band that I feel have a very, very bright future ahead of them.
Kudos to you to getting Paige to listen to metal in the car, because I can't get my wife to shake. I have to put on some. We have to go into the middle with some hard rock from like the 90s or something like that. She doesn't mind certain stuff, but I can't pull it. I can't. There's no way I could put on I can't put on Quell. I can't put on Antichrist Imperium. She doesn't go for it at all. I can't.
You should start her off. You should start her off with Russian Circles.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point.
No, we have a standing rule. When I drive, I listen to my music, and when she drives, we can listen to her music. And she does she does drive. She's actually a pretty good driver. She's also extremely good parker, because these narrow ass parkings here in the UK, they're not for me. So very often I don't want to risk scratching my car, so I'll just get out and say, park the car for me. But like I said, the rule stands as far as who drives determines what gets listened to in our house.
Hey, if it's all right, before we call this a night, this whole listing was definitely difficult for, I'm sure, all of us. But I had a couple honorable mentions, if I could just throw them out there real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say you and I actually covered this last time we did a podcast together, and it's not technically an album, so that's why it didn't end up on my list. But I still want to throw out some love to Audacious and the EP Mend. I think that was a great release for 2022. There's a band called Imha Tariket. They had an album that came out this year called Hearts Unchained. I thought that was a really interesting album. It had a lot of promise. It just didn't make it. I didn't have enough time to really give it, unfortunately. And then there was a collaboration between the band Thou and this other band called Mizmor, and that album's called Myopia. And I really liked that album a lot too. Just didn't get around to really giving it enough of a deep dive and enough time to say that it stands on my list indefinitely. But all of those that I just mentioned are all great bands and great albums for this year as well. So also check those guys out if you have time.
All right, now it's time to count down our top 5 pornos of the
yeah.
No, Dave, sorry, you were gonna do
I was just gonna say there's one that I came onto a little later in the year, and it just missed coming onto the list by a hair. But it's called, the band is called Maceration, and the record is called It Never Ends, and it's got like an ellipses after that, ... And that is like full on death metal. Like, it's got that classic sound, and it's Dan Swano is actually on vocals. It's his first vocal. Yeah, it's his first. Hi, Sophie. That's my daughter. Sorry. He's on vocals. It's his first vocal performance, I think, since I think he said it's been over 20 years.
Bloodbath was the last thing he did, right?
Yeah. So I guess Maceration was like the first band that he was ever involved in. So if you look at his Instagram when he talks about the release, he said he felt compelled to do the vocals for it and come out of I guess growl retirement. And he fucking blows me away when I listen to this record. It's so good. So if you guys haven't checked out Maceration, it's a Dan Swano vocal, and he kills it. It's really, really good. So if you guys haven't heard that yet, definitely check it out. Yeah,
I definitely will do. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. It was an absolute blast. Thank you so much to the folks that tuned in to the live stream. Thanks for everybody that commented. I am going to be back next week with Mike Hill of Tombs and Scorpion Throne. We're counting down top 10s, and then I've got a couple of guests in the pipeline for the weeks ahead. So yeah, it's going to be a fucking great year, and hopefully one in which I'll get to meet a couple of folks live. Well, not live in person. I say live as well. I probably should attempt to come out of my country hovel and go to a few more live shows, but I don't like public transport, so it's one of that's one of the obstacles to me going to shows.
Have you been training for your biohazard mosh pitting?
Not yet.
No.
I lie. I have been back at the gym, and I have been pretty diligent with it. I'm lifting reasonably light at the moment because I'm focusing on volume. I don't want to go nuts and hurt myself. But no, I'm back at it. And I definitely will. I will be participating in that Biohazard mosh pit. It's you kind of, you've seen Biohazard live. Like, there's very few bands that come close.
I'm bummed they're not coming to Canada yet. But...
So you're probably all right, you know.
Oh yeah,
they're all in walkers and wheelchairs now, so you won't have to. Well,
firstly, Evan has to be on steroids and Cialis and shit like that to maintain his lifestyle.
I've been following the 9 primordial tenets, so I might be on that, Doria.
Is Liver King? Does he have 9 primordial tenets, or is
I think it's 9. I think it's 9. Yeah.
I thought it's 10. It's ancestral tenets.
And that's what it is. Yeah, ancestral tenets. Yeah.
You guys have to refer to yourself in the third person as well. So you gotta start doing that.
I have to say, I never really minded that guy. I was never stupid enough to look at him and go, this fucking, midget who's 45 years old and looks like a He-Man toy is, he's gotten that way naturally by eating liver. But I always look at it from the perspective of like net, what's the net benefit of a person? And if the net benefit of a guy like that is he gets a couple of people to, get up off their fucking lazy behinds and go to the gym and eat a little bit more healthy. Honestly, it's not like he's standing there with a needle going, all right, this is how I got my muscles, kids. You can get it too. So I thought that the way people have gone after him relentlessly, I wouldn't say it's in poor taste, but I feel like it's piling on. It's punching down a little bit in my view, and I'm not a fan of people that punch down.
If anyone was giving him shit and whatnot, coming on to him like that, listen to the Patrick Bet Davids interview that he did, and he really opens up about it. And he's like, yeah, he owns his shit. I shouldn't have bullshitted anybody. Like you all knew, kind of thing. He says, but it's a great interview. It really
I listened
down to earth. And, yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
Well, the real irony is like if most people spent as much time as Liver King or any of these jokers, on themselves as much as like these guys work on like their physical appearance and stuff like that, they would be too busy to make these comments in the first place, right? Like you said, like if they might be they might be lunatics or whatever, but yeah, if they encourage somebody to get off their ass and like work out, and I guess the net's always like I mean the guy can still be a douchebag, but like doesn't mean that he doesn't inspire other people to do some good stuff. There's a guy though, there's a South African guy. I don't know if you know him. He's a bodybuilder, but he's very open about his drug use, his steroid use, and he's a really motivating guy too. I can't think of his name right now, but I'll have to send you a couple of videos. He's pretty motivating, pretty transparent. So anybody who like wants like the real truth on how to get looking that big, he's a good guy to go to.
The thing is, it's. I mean, I've known people who were more than willing to hook me up with stuff if I wanted to, but it's not worth it. I mean, I don't want to have a fucking heart attack by the time I'm 47, 48 years old.
No, and that's why I think it's like that's where it's good to have someone who is like that guy I just mentioned, like who's very transparent, honest about like this is what I do and this is what will happen to you, and like it doesn't set up like some false expectations or something like that. You get a pretty cut and dry like this is what you're getting yourself into, and this is what it's going to be like, to get here.
I have noticed your voice is deeper though, and your shoulders are broadened as well. So I feel like perhaps some of the advice that he's given there, you've been applying to yourself.
I've just been eating a lot of USDA fucking beef, ground beef from America with a bunch of growth
straight out of the fucking package.
This is they take that cow, they have a fucking giant syringe with growth hormones. They put it right in the ass of that cow, and then I eat it on a hamburger. So,
where in which country do we think, or in which part of the world do we think the World Economic Forum's meat ban will take effect first? Will it be weak England? Will it be liberal California? Or will it be Trudeau's Canada?
Canada, probably.
I was about to say, I think we know the answer.
I have to say, as a resident, yeah.
It's too much bureaucracy to get it across the line. Yeah,
Canadians are just too fucking nice, is what it really comes down to. Like, yeah,
California, they're afraid that the few gun owners that still live there go fuck wild. But
California gets a rap as being a liberal state, but it's not as liberal as it used to be. There's a lot of people nowadays. Anyway,
I definitely though I said to Paige, I've got a couple of red lines, and many of them have already been crossed. The taxation in this place is ridiculous. But the day that they say I have to start eating insects, or I'm going to start getting my meat intake checked with a social credit score, is the day that we pack our shit and we're back to South Africa. Because we were driving through there, and I was looking around, and I said to her, do you genuinely think if they try to push through a meat ban or anything like that, do you seriously think that it would ever fly in this country? No fucking chance. Never. People would just ignore it. They would raise their own cattle in their backyards if they had to. So you know, and I must confess, there's not a huge amount of things that make me proud to be a South African. The Springboks do, parts of the country do, but that one thing, the fact that we'll be one of the final countries to fall when they start banning the meat, that made me very proud. And on that note, folks, have a fucking brilliant week, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. And
yeah,
to Evan
and
and
you're
Dave,
always welcome out here in North America, Jackie, if you ever want to. You know that.
Oh, and Trudeau will welcome you with open arms too. Jackie.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, and
I've associated
I'm
with
only a
one of
stone's
his
throw from him,
one of his enemies, mate, with Brock from Panzerfaust. So,
also,
anyways,
yeah,
all right.
thanks to everybody who stuck around. Carl, all you guys, really appreciate you for all the support, and we love you guys.
Thank you for having me on, guys, too. My little old self.
Yeah, thanks for having
really
us,
humbling
Jack.
to be on here. Yeah.
Cool. So long, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.